What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider Interview Studio at TIFF 2024 at the Cinema Center, brought to you by the Range Rover Sport. I am lucky enough to be sitting with the team behind all of you. I'm so curious to see your film. I've obviously done an absurd amount of research, and there's so many ideas I can't wait to dig into more. So I will say an early congratulations to you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So clearly I have a sense of what your movie is about because it is getting a festival premiere. A lot of our audience will first learn about it here. So Will, I'll give you these duties. Can you give a brief synopsis? That's most of the reaction I hear when it's not directed at them. A brief synopsis of all of you.
The worst question.
Fair enough. It's a story set in a world where you can take a test and find out who your soulmate is. And it's two friends walking down the street. One's going to take the test and the other one's there to support her, and she takes the test and it turns out to be someone else. And then we chronicle the lives of these two friends over the next 15 years as they start to discover that they've got more feelings for each other than they thought they had.
Many, many questions about that story. But first I wanted to talk about you two as collaborators, because one of my absolute favorite things in this industry is when you find that creative partner that you know fits you perfectly. So can you tell me how the two of you met and what the first thing you saw in the other that signaled to you, this is an ideal collaborator for me?
Well, we met, we wrote a film together. We were sort of put together by the director of that film, a film called Super Bob, which we made a long time ago. And it's basically a rom-com, secretly a rom-com, but it's a superhero film disguised as one. And while we were making that, we talked a lot about love, and he's married, I'm not. We were talking about soulmates, the idea of it, and then that led us to make this short film, which is kind of what the beginning of this film is. And then for the last 10 years, we've talked about this idea and been obsessed with that short, and there's more in this, there's more in this.
Anything you want to add about Brett?
Well, only when you meet someone who you know to be a good writer, you just make sure you stay friends with them.
I like that approach.
But also
what he said is true also.
We talk about why I think we're a good partnership is that he's excellent at things that I'm not great at, and I'm excellent at things he's not great at, and that we fit each other well. And can I say the thing? Sometimes he might write something and say, I need you to do a human pass. And I might write, I need the robot pass, because he's excellent at this is a joke that we have. It's not true. He's a very sensitive, loving boy, but he doesn't like to admit it.
Thank you, Brett.
I mean, I get it. I can see how it serves this particular story very well, too. Imogen, I kind of want to build on that with you now, because it can be very difficult to step into a space with two people who have an established working relationship. So what was that like for you, and how did their pre-established rapport tee you up for success in the film?
Oh, I found it really beautiful, and especially... it's Brett and Will, and then our producers Andrew and Aaron, who are on set. It was a very male-dominated set, but as a woman in this experience, I had an incredible time. I felt so supported and encouraged, and my opinions were important. So that was it's kind of a rare thing to experience, and the collaboration was great. But I kind of was folded right into it from the beginning in the rehearsal, and then any ideas were sort of just encouraged and accentuated, and I had a great time.
I like hearing about when opinions are important. Can you give me an example of a time when you felt inspired on set, you brought that idea to them, and they incorporated it in the final film?
I think it was more just in terms of scenes when we were feeling out. Obviously, they'd lived with this idea for a lot longer. And then me coming in as an actor, I had my own instincts or opinions. And often you can meet friction there, and that wasn't the case at all. It was sort of like, oh yeah, we're handing it over to you now, and now you have to sort of bring what you want to this character. And if it was just even adjustments in the script or tiny things that I felt she might or might not do, but it was very rare. It was pretty much all there on the page, but just even knowing that space was available was very cool. Yeah,
it's important. I jumped ahead a little bit with that question. I kind of want to talk about writing the script in the beginning stages. I know you said it's based on a short, but can you tell me maybe the specific idea that started it all? But then I also want to know if you two had a break story moment, something you came up with along the way that made you feel like it was whole.
Shall I? Well, we were talking when we were writing this other film. I'm with the same person I was with all that time ago. And Brett, I think, was single at the time. And we were talking, and he said, is she your soulmate? And I said, I don't know. And out of that, I think literally, I can't remember which one of us said it. It's like, but what if you could know? What if you could take a test and find out? And then the idea just unpacked itself in a conversation over 30 minutes. And it was like, oh yeah, friends walking down the street, that they're going to take the test. And so that's where the short film came from. And like Brett said,
go on.
No, you go ahead.
No, I want to hear what you're going to say.
Well, like over the next 15 years, as we went and made other things, we carried on the conversation about those characters and kept going back to their lives and going, well, what would they be doing now? Like one of them's married, one of them's, what about if they have kids, or if a parent dies or something like that? We were trying to find milestones in their lives to go, well, what would happen then? And then I think we got to a point where we were like, well, why don't we just write it? Like we've been talking about it all this time. It's like we clearly want to do more with these characters. Why don't we use the short as a template for the opening of the movie and tell the story from there?
It's also kind of like War of the Worlds if it was a love story, as in there's this huge idea in it, which is the soulmate test, but we don't look at the bigger picture. We're looking at two people. It's actually like a very simple thing. At what you're seeing the film, you're seeing moments of their lives going forward, and it's all the moments that they're together. You don't see when they're not together. You don't know what. So there's almost like a bit of detective work as an audience, because every time you return to them, you don't know what happened in the 2 years in between. So you're like, oh, things have changed. What's new? You know what I mean?
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
First question, and I feel like the answer is going to be like, just like see the movie. I need to see the movie when I'm able to. When your characters take the test, do they have any expectations in terms of what the results of the test will be?
I feel like that might be it.
They have
Fair
hopes.
enough.
There are
They
hopes.
talk
Yeah.
about it. They talk
Yeah.
about it because you would, right? If you're going to go and take the test, you would be definitely thinking about like, what, is it going to be my expectation of a perfect person? Because they're your soulmates. So that's what you expect them to be. But that might not necessarily be the case. It might be just somebody that you love more than anyone else. That was the guiding principle that we wanted to do with the test. It isn't somebody that could possibly fix you, but it is somebody that you will care for more than anyone else. That's the idea.
So many more questions that I feel like you're not going to be able to answer. This one does feel safe, though. I was reading that it has some real life theoretical basis in terms of the test that you designed. So can you tell me a little bit about the truth in our world that inspired this particular test?
We went and had a meeting, it's a long time ago, and the worst part of this thing is I can't remember his name, which is so bad, but he's the most important quantum theoretical scientist working in England. And he's a very important, incredible man. His name I can't remember.
And I don't either. I can't help you out. Sorry.
Yeah. But we went to see him because we had this idea, and we had a whole day with him where he explained quantum physics, which makes your eyeballs melt. And the whole time I was trying to I think I understand. And then we said, we've had this idea, would this work? And we pitched it to him, and he was like, yeah, that makes sense. And the idea is that there's a new particle that is found within the eye, within the human eye, that has not been found before. And it rotates at a certain frequency that is completely unique to that one person, like a fingerprint, like that sort of thing. But when someone takes the test, if another person anywhere on the planet has taken the test, that their particle will change. So it's quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
Simplest form, quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
But if the other person with the same kind of frequency
Yes.
in their eye hasn't taken the test,
Then
their results will show up.
Their results
No?
show up. You don't have anyone yet. They haven't taken the test yet.
Okay. I'm fascinated by all of this.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the idea of the time jump element here for the two of you, because that's an interesting acting challenge. What is the key to showing how they evolve, but also keeping them consistent enough that the film has a structured through line to it?
Beard length.
It's like
Length of
watching it was
beard.
our hair. My beard length, your beard length. It was shifting the whole time. I think it's like fun. Like there are parts of ourselves. It was a really cool opportunity as an actor because you get to suddenly engage with like the gooey parts of yourself when you were younger or when you're more awkward and you're nervous, and then sort of how finding those moments, because we were jumping back and forth the whole time as well. So it's quite nice setting those things and then revisiting them again, and then what it means to be an adult, and is there even such a thing as an adult with these two people? All of those kind of questions that come up. But it was mainly beards.
That bit.
I like the idea of, is there any such thing as being an adult with these two
Yeah.
characters, or how about anyone on
With
the
anyone.
planet? Because I never, ever feel like one. One other thing that I was reading that I found really interesting was that you decided not to like specify the time in terms of the time jumps. Why did that feel like the thing that I guess would serve the story best from the viewer perspective?
We wanted the audience to play detective on when we were meeting up with them again. And so the clues are in the way they greet each other, the dialogue that they have with each other, the event that they're going to. And the hope is that you find that a fun thing to do. You'll understand their, where they are in their relationship quite quickly with the way that they interact with each other straight away. So the fun thing is like, oh, where is this in their lives? So it was always an intention not to put 2 years later and leave it up to the audience to decide, because the specific amount of time is irrelevant. It's just they've been apart and this is the next time they see each other. So yeah, so we felt like we put it in the script, but we decided we didn't want to put it in the movie.
And actually, it was a thing we were worried about, where it was like, are we going to have to put titles up to say this? And every time we tested it and everyone we showed it to, no one was confused. So we were like, oh, great.
Sign me up for that. As a viewer, I like when you put that trust in me and inspire me to engage and figure it out for myself. I feel like every film needs that. So it is abundantly clear that your characters evolve heavily through the other, which makes me especially excited to ask this question. Can you each tell me something about the other as a scene partner here that you appreciated and helped you reach something in your own character that you wouldn't have found without them?
I feel like so much of this film, especially, everything we had together wouldn't exist without the other, if that makes sense. Like, I genuinely think Brett as a person is an incredible listener, and I think therefore that's one of his most beautiful traits as an actor, is that there's a presence there that's just so engaging that it means, and maybe it's because you've come from this comedy background, but there's an ability to just go with anything, and everything is sort of elastic and endless and accepted, and you can't fall, and it's held and it's returned, and it's like the best thing when you find it's a tennis player of a scene partner. And I think wanting the other one to really soar, when you really want the person opposite you to be the best version they can and get as close as they can. I mean, that's such a lovely thing to feel for somebody.
It's no better quality to have than that.
Most of the film is just the two of us, and we knew whoever we cast, whatever is between us, that's the whole film. And if that's not right, we're fucked. The script's great, if we're fucked without that. And we met with lots of people and talked with lots of people, and then I had a Zoom with Imogen, and 5 minutes into the Zoom, I was like, we were laughing so much, and I was like, oh, I feel like I've known you forever, which is what these characters have to have. So it was so simple, and I remember called you immediately. I was like, right, it's Imogen. It's got to be Imogen. And we fought to get Imogen. And look, Imogen's an incredible actor. She's one of the all-time greats. And I was perhaps a little intimidated by that. Like, I hope I can keep up, you know what I mean? But then she's the most, it's all the things she said. She's completely, we were together. So everything was just between us. And it also, there are some things in the film that are very, 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 very vulnerable. And were we not all feeling safe with each other would be shit, but we really had to go to some places, you know what I mean? And it's I feel very lucky. It's very moving and special.
Yet another top tier quality for any on-set environment to have.
Yeah.
I love that. Kind of building on that a little bit. And also, I love talking about the unexpected magic you can find on set when things don't go according to plan and you wind up finding something better in the process. So can you tell me about a particular scene that might have changed most from script to screen for the better?
I don't think it didn't change dialogue-wise, but there's a scene, but just in terms of how we shot it, we'd planned to shoot in this particular location, but when we got to this location, there was this other space that had this particular lighting that almost looked, it was real, and it kind of looked like, it looks very magic, like it looks like God. It's like there's these lights coming through the sky, coming through the windows at the top, and it was like, we moved it all down there, even though that wasn't the plan. It took meant we were behind and all that. But that scene is, I think, one of the best scenes in the film. And it was real like, oh shit, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're making a movie like this, you've got a tight schedule, things go wrong on a daily basis, and that just becomes part of how you make the movie, that you have to be flexible, and that comes from actors knowing their characters inside out and knowing the story. I mean, it helps that Brett wrote it, but like knowing the characters and the story inside out, that you can just turn and you go, okay, we're not going over there. These next 3 scenes has to be one scene. So what's the core point of this? What do we really need to get across here? And that would be a creative conversation between the 3 of us. And we would kind of work that into a new scene. And that happened all the time. Like in changing dialogue, like this isn't quite working. We'd talk about it and switch it up. It was like, you can't, I don't think you can make a good film without that kind of being open to change, because we just we didn't have the time to be able to afford to be that rigid to anything. So we had to always be flexible.
I want to say publicly, Will Bridges.
Hold on.
It's a nice thing. Like it's a low, it's a small film, 5 weeks. It was such a tight schedule. It was one of them schedules where you look at it, you go like, we can't miss a single thing, otherwise we don't have the film. And he's right, every day something would go wrong, like the location we had fell through or something would happen. He was the fucking coolest. I was often
on the outside.
He's like that meme of the dog, like the house was on fire and he was just beep. Very, very cool.
This is popping into my head as a follow-up to that. So we're lucky enough to get to hear from the 3 of you, but no film is made without a slew of other people.
Yeah.
And I'll preface this by saying it's an unfair question. Every single person who works on a film is very, very important. Can you each name an unsung hero on this particular production that wound up being instrumental to pulling this off in that short period?
Zara.
Zara.
Zara was a on-set PA who was fucking amazing and unflappable, and just like I described with Will, but she'd often be like soaking wet or like literally on fire, and she'd be like, "You okay, guys?"
She was so chill, and she also
so, like,
and she really respected like what the film was in a way. Like she understood the nature of sort of, I don't know, to create that space. She was like a set PA, but she was so much more than that. I love her so much.
Yeah, she was very special.
She knew all of our like weird neuroses and things like that. Yeah.
She was really good.
I'm always here for shouting out a PA. It doesn't happen nearly enough.
I mean, you're right. It's hard to pick anyone out. They're all.
Vic's pretty great.
They're all pretty good. Vic, the editor, our editor, who I think should be, if she isn't, a qualified therapist as well.
Like Zara,
like Zara. I think basically that's all it is. Like we just need therapists on set. But she was great in the edit, and pulling things apart, inviting me to kind of look at scenes in a completely different way, different structures. The reason why we can move through time in the way we do is through Vic's influence, absolutely. So I think probably Vic is a very unsung hero.
I have one really big question about all of this for you. It's kind of personal. Going into the film, did you believe in soulmates? And having made it, did that belief remain the same, or did it evolve because of the experience of working on this film?
Well, it's a tough one, because when we first started, I used to say like, I don't believe in soulmates, even though I've been with my wife. I've known my wife since college, and we were friends first, and then we were kind of together. We had a child together. Then we got married and had another child. And I think probably looking back over this, having made this film, I'd probably say, I probably do believe in soulmates.
Yeah, you're the soulmates.
So I think I started this whole journey going, no. Even was saying like, well, if I wasn't married to her, I'd be married with someone else. But I think not now.
Yeah.
Now I'm on camera. No.
No, I think you are soulmates.
Yeah. So I think my opinion since we began this to now has actually gone completely the opposite way, I would say.
Yeah.
What about you?
It constantly changes, but I definitely think you meet people where you're like, well, like when we first met, it was like, I've known you forever. Like there's some magic in that, for sure.
I believe in them. I'm very romantic, and I like in that way, and I think that it's a very hard path to go down for me. But I think that I believe in them, and I also think that magnets. There's something about being magnetized to a person, and that's sort of something. It's so mystifying and unknowable, and it should remain so. But I think that's it's one of the best bits about being alive.
I think the unknowable quality is what makes me believe, because my definition of a soulmate constantly evolves, and I believe in whatever the definition needs to be for me at the time. I guess now I'm making it all about me and not
Please
a
do.
broader
Yes.
definition,
We
but
prefer
that
that.
works for me, and I'll take it.
I wonder if the real difference is time, being able to look back over time and say, oh yes, because like to look forward, it's so hard to know. It'd be like, oh, I know what a soulmate is. But I think if you spend time with someone, you can look back over that time.
Yeah.
That's probably how you would know. That would be my
Re-ask
guess.
me this question in like 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Let's see how my definition
Yeah.
changes. I'm going to say huge congratulations on all of you. I love talking to people not having seen a movie and feeling my anticipation to see it rise and rise. So many curiosities that I know I'm going to spark to. So congratulations.
Thank you for being so thoughtful and
Thank you very
brilliant. I
much.
appreciate
Yeah,
it. Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you
you.
all so much for sharing some of your experience with us. To everybody out there, stay tuned. More interviews from the TIFF 2024 interview studio for you very, very soon.